Hello everyone and welcome back to Deciphering Weather. Today's video we're going to provide another update on Hurricane Beryl and 96L. As you can see, it's moving through the Caribbean and heading towards Jamaica and potentially towards Texas. If you like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all of my upcoming videos. So we're looking at the latest satellite image of the Atlantic Basin thanks to tropicaltidbits.com for Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. The black arrow is Category 4 Hurricane Beryl. Was a Category 5 last night and earlier today, but has now since been downgraded to a Category 4 once more. Behind it is struggling NWS 96L as it's encountering a lot of wind shear and dry air from the Saharan air layer, so its thunderstorm moisture has substantially decreased. And then we have another tropical wave that came off the coast of Africa, looked impressive yesterday and has lost a lot of its luster today again because of that Saharan air layer. Here's the vorticity, the energy and spin in the atmosphere associated with all of our tropical entities. As you can see, the one that's most powerful is obviously Category 4 Hurricane Beryl. Here's the latest satellite image of Beryl, and you can see it's still a very powerful hurricane. It's Category 4 with 155 mile per hour winds, but it doesn't look quite as perfect as it did in yesterday or even just earlier this morning. That's because it's encountering some wind shear coming from the south and west. So it's coming from the bottom left of your screen and moving to the top right of your screen. So that's why this storm has more of a lopsided look to it today than it did earlier today. So here's the projected path according to the National Hurricane Center of where the center of the storm can go. As you can see, it looks like it's going to clip the southern half of Jamaica. So they have hurricane warnings in effect, as well as the Cayman Islands. It looks like it may go right through the Caymans if it takes a more northern path. Could hopefully just go to the south of them so they don't get the extreme brunt of the storm. But Jamaica may take a lot out of the Hurricane Beryl. Not only will the wind shear affect it and weaken it some, but going over the mountainous Jamaica will substantially weaken it as well. So the Cayman Islands could be saved a little bit from that, if you want to say it that way. And then, of course, it moves westward towards the Yucatan Peninsula and into the Gulf of Mexico. And then there we have a good spread of where it potentially could go. And yes, Texas is in play. Here is the key messages from the National Hurricane Center. You can pause this to take a chance to read it, but on the left is in English and on the right is in Spanish. Here's the spaghetti track guidance model showing how much of a spread we have in the projected path of Beryl. It's pretty consistent up until about the Yucatan Peninsula, and then after that, all bets are off. It can continue moving west-northwest towards Mexico, or a majority of models now are saying it's going to curve to the northwest and even to the north and head towards southern Texas, maybe even as far north as Houston, Texas. So it was a Category 5 earlier today, just recently downgraded back to a Category 4. And you can see we have a split in the models where some say it will maintain Category 3 hurricane strength, and others saying it's going to continue to weaken because of increased in wind shear, interaction with the land with Jamaica and Yucatan Peninsula, and then only be a tropical storm by the time we get back into the Gulf of Mexico later this week. So here's the latest satellite image of NWS 96L. You can see it's lost a lot of its thunderstorm convection. It's barely holding on to a developing low pressure system. But this energy will continue to track westward across the mid-Atlantic into the Caribbean, as you can see here from the spaghetti track guidance models. It does have a slight chance for development still. As you can see, we have a 10% over the next 2 days and a 20% over the next 7 days. But we also could see this develop beyond the 7-day mark. Even though it's becoming unfavorable now for development, I'll show you how in beyond the 7-day outlook in the Gulf of Mexico, we could see this try to, if its energy and core survives all the way through there, we could potentially see another storm in the Gulf in about 7+ days. So let's use the HWRF model to show where Hurricane Beryl could go and how strong it's going to be. This is as of this afternoon. Upper level winds, as you can see, we're dealing with. It's on the left side of an upper level ridge, which has been protecting it all this time and allowing for proper exhaust. So it's still somewhat healthy, but just to its left across Jamaica, we have that TUT, that upper level trough, where I have the black arrow, and that's infusing a lot of wind shear into this storm now. So it's gradually going to weaken as it approaches Jamaica, which is a good thing. We don't want a 165 mile per hour Category 5 slamming into Jamaica. We want something weaker. But weaker still means a strong storm. It could still be a major hurricane on landfall, potentially with Jamaica. And here you can see some of that dry air trying to erode away at the storm. Latest aircraft reconnaissance missions shows that the pressure has gone up. So we were at a 938 earlier this afternoon. Now it's at a 944 at the making of this video. Now, by the time we get to tomorrow night, Wednesday evening, heading around 8 p.m. Eastern in the United States, we could be seeing Beryl making landfall somewhere on the southern side of Jamaica at around 966 millibar low pressure system, which could be at least a Category 3 upon landfall. Then moving to a couple of hours after that to Thursday, July 4th, in the morning hours around 7 a.m. Eastern, could be moving through the Cayman Islands at this point. Still rather strong, down to about a 967 millibar. So not much difference, you can see. Weaker than it is substantially today, where it was originally at 934, I think, at one point today, but still a very strong hurricane. We don't want to see significant impacts to Jamaica, but Jamaica would be a big dent in the storm to provide some protection to the Cayman Islands if that was the case. If it goes just to the south of Jamaica, but then stays in a projected path towards the Cayman Islands, that would be worst case scenario for them. Worst case scenario right now, it's making a beeline for Jamaica. So 2 days from now, we still have this weakened upper level ridge trying to hold off and protect Beryl as it moves through the Western Caribbean. We have a cutoff low just to its west, so the upper level trough is starting to erode away because of the strength of Beryl. It's plowing through it, but that upper level low will still provide enough wind shear to continue weakening this storm as it moves westward. And as you can see here, that it's even more lopsided in 2 days from now, where we have a lot more of that storm looking to project north and eastward all of its moisture. So even if you don't see a direct landfall, Jamaica, Cuba, Cayman Islands, you're all going to see those outer bands bring in a lot of rain pumping in your region because of the wind shear. Then by the time we get to day 3 on July 5th, we're going to be seeing landfall somewhere along the Yucatan Peninsula. Could be as far south as Belize, could be as far north as Cancun, or a little bit further than north than that. So time will tell on the exact path it goes. But look, on the HWRF model, it's trying to re-strengthen itself, maintaining a major hurricane status with a 947 millibar low pressure system before making landfall with the Yucatan. So we'll see if that's the case, or if Jamaica takes a lot out of it and the wind shear erodes more of it away after that. Then we get into the weekend on Saturday, July 6th. It's across the Yucatan Peninsula. On the HWRF model, it takes more of a direct course across the shortest portion of the Yucatan from like the Cancun area and then northwest into the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. So it doesn't lose a lot of strength. This would be worst case scenario because we would have a very strong storm moving into the Gulf of Mexico and potentially could get stronger at that point. Instead of trying to re-strengthen itself, this one would be strong and just get stronger. As you can see here on day 5 on the HWRF model, on Sunday the 7th, we're knocking on the door of somewhere along the Texas coastline based on this model, with a 958 millibar low pressure system being fueled by very warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico. As you can see, upper 80s approaching 90 degrees in Fahrenheit in some regions. A reestablished upper level ridge overhead with a trough just to its north and west. That will cause a jet streak to form. And if we remember last year, as I said, this is worst case scenario. That would be similar to what we saw in the Pacific, where we had that major hurricane rapidly intensify just before making landfall with Mexico last year. Hopefully this does not come to play. It will impart some wind shear, but a jet streak will also cause a lot of rapid air to escape at the upper levels of the atmosphere, which will be replaced by a lot of converging air in the lower levels of the atmosphere. So that will tighten this storm even more, potentially, on its approach to Texas if this was to play out. Different model, GFS says a weaker storm at about a 974 millibar low pressure. Still a very strong storm. That's like Cat 2, borderline Cat 3, but going into the Rio Grande Valley. So we'll see which one plays out. We still have a lot of time yet, but worst case scenario would be the HWRF model right now, saying that we have another major hurricane heading into the Gulf of Mexico, potentially could even rapidly intensify in the Gulf with the proper conditions. Why it's moving northward in the Gulf once it's in the Gulf of Mexico? The high pressure that's going to be steering it westward from the time it makes landfall with Jamaica tomorrow and towards the Yucatan Peninsula will have started to erode away, and we have an upper level trough digging in through the central plains of the United States, and that's going to pull that storm northward because there's going to be a weakness. Think of high pressure as a mountain and the trough as a valley. The storm wants to go where the weakest area to go. You want to go through the valley, not up the mountain. So that's why we see this storm potentially curving more to the northwestern portions of the Gulf of Mexico towards Texas, or even just to the South Texas Mexico border again, like we saw with past storms. So we'll keep an eye on this. As you can see, 10 days from now, on July 10th, going into the 11th, we have Beryl in Texas based on the GFS model, but right behind it, what's still holding on as Invest 96L, its energy has made its way to the Bay of Campeche, the southwest portions of the Gulf of Mexico as well at this point. And you can see the low wind shear environment. So potentially Invest 96L, even though its chances of developing across the main development region in the Caribbean are decreasing as we've been going along, potentially could still fire up in the Gulf of Mexico. And we've seen this before with other storms. We saw a tropical storm Alberto, 93L try to form. We saw Chris briefly make landfall with Mexico just a couple of days ago. Got to keep an eye on any energy that gets into the Gulf of Mexico this year. We need to keep an eye on because it will try to develop. So something that we'll watch. Here's the European model. As you can see, it has Beryl staying relatively strong, going over Jamaica, the Yucatan Peninsula, into the southwest Gulf of Mexico. The European model is keeping this one a little bit further south, just on the southern side of the U.S. border, as it makes its way towards two impacts with Mexico. So we'll keep an eye on everything, like I said. Here's the ensemble spread, where this storm can go. Obviously, as you can see on the European model, even its spread, if you look specifically right in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, you see that pink line. That's similar to the HWRF model, where this is a major hurricane entering the Gulf of Mexico. That is one, like I said, it's one possibility. HWRF is showing the worst case scenario, and the European model has one of those scenarios on there. You don't want to see that, but we have to prepare for it just in case. So we'll continue to monitor Hurricane Beryl as it makes its way towards Jamaica tomorrow, Cayman Islands after that, Yucatan after that in about 3 days' time, and then depending on the speed of the storm, could be as quick as 5 days along the Mexico coastline in the Gulf of Mexico, or about 6 or 7 days as it makes its way turning northward, potentially towards Texas, depending on how fast this storm is going, what the strength is at that time, and if it's re-strengthening back to a hurricane from a tropical storm, or if it's maintained hurricane or major hurricane strength and just getting stronger from there. Too far out to know all details at this point. And then we'll continue to monitor 96L, because even if it doesn't develop anywhere in this region, potentially could still develop if it makes its way into the Gulf of Mexico. And if it does, it will gain the name of Debbie. As a reminder, we have super thanks available on Deciphering Weather. I'd like to give a shout out to Mark for donating to yesterday's video, so thank you very much. And if you'd like to donate to the channel because you like what we're doing here, please go down to the heart button where it says thanks. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button and leave a comment. Please share this video with your family and friends on social media. And if you're new and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all of my upcoming videos. Thank you and have a great day. Be safe.